To actually understand why we've been so bombarded in our society, we need to go back to the 1940s. Alfred Kinsey wrote a book, Sexual Behaviour in the Human Male, in 1948, followed by another book in 1952, Sexual Behaviour in the Human Female. And he made a lot of claims in those books. He is known as the father of sexology. He actually created sexologists. And his groundbreaking and controversial research on human sexuality profoundly influenced social and cultural values. It sure did, not in a good way though. The books became bestsellers and became the basis for the myth that you will hear: children are sexual beings from birth. Okay, and that myth has become widespread all over the media and many places. Lovely looking website we've got here, Holistic, Mindful, Sustainable Courage, sharing the new story of childhood, parenthood and human family. And one of the first articles they have is how children are sexual beings from birth, and you see these two lovely children with sexual beings written underneath. That's exactly how it is on the website. Now, children like this should never be viewed as sexual beings. Again, just for another example, we have the Youth Embassy website, and it claims all human beings from birth until death are sexual beings. So the work of Dr. Alfred Kinsey from Kinsey Institute continues to impact society today, in spite of the fact that his research was shown to be faulty, it was shown to be biased, and it was shown to be incorrect. In spite of that, they still use his research. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of that. I've got a couple of relevant slides a bit later. Now, this is directly from the Safe Schools curriculum. So we're told Safe Schools is not sexualising children or giving them any ideas that are negative. Okay, this is from the All of Us unit guide. And it tells us about Nebo. This is a video that is played as part of the curriculum. He's a positive and confident young man with young person. Excuse me, forgive me for using the wrong pronoun there. Nebo is a positive and confident young person with the same hopes and dreams as many young people. He tells a powerful story about growing up with the knowledge that the female sex assigned to him at birth did not match who he knew he truly was. He speaks about the unique challenges facing transgender people and how the people in their lives can be supportive. He also comments that the important difference between gender identity and sexual identity. Nebo's story will help to dismantle fears and stereotypes about transgender and gender diverse people. And Nebo today, this is a recent article, okay? I took a look in the mirror and see I'm neither male or female. He now calls himself gender non-conforming, all right? He says, I used to identify as a man, I used to identify as a woman, but right now that's not relevant to me. I see myself as a mosaic of femininity and masculinity and complex thought and ability. And this is what happens when we teach children that it's all about your feelings. When we forget biology, we forget science, and we make it about feelings, this is what happens. We have confused young people who don't know who they are. The normalisation of transgenderism is really normalising psychopathology. Gender identity disorder was renamed gender dysphoria, but it is still a mental disorder, gender dysphoria. And it should stay as one because we know with every other area of life where your beliefs don't match reality, where your beliefs don't match science, we bring your beliefs into matching science. We don't tell a person with an eating disorder, oh yes, you're right, you're fat when they're really skinny. We don't do that because we know it's not good for them. We don't tell someone with body dysmorphia, oh yes, you should cut off your arm because you want to cut off your arm. We don't tell them that. No, no, no. We work with the false belief in the mind to bring truth. And we've gotten to the point now where we have a 52-year-old in the US identifying as a 6-year-old girl, and nobody speaks against it, because in the US, you identify, it's how you feel. That's what matters. So we have a 52-year-old man identifying as a 6-year-old girl. He's been adopted by some lovely grandparents after leaving his wife and 7 children. Isn't that nice that those grandparents were willing to adopt him? So we are normalizing abnormal psychology when we accept transgenderism. And we're confusing children and young people. Bisexual is a person who is emotionally and romantically attracted to multiple genders. That comes out of the All of Us unit guide, just so you know where the students are getting this information, okay? And it tells the teacher a key outcome for this discussion is an understanding that people's sexuality is made up of their feelings, behaviour and identity, and we shouldn't make assumptions about any of these things based on anything else. Forget your biology, that's no longer important, it's all about feelings. One of the things I shake my head at is mental health professionals accepting this, knowing that one of the 10 common thinking distortions is mistaking feelings for facts, and when you do that, that leads to psychological problems. Here we have a whole theory on mistaking feelings for facts, and we are calling that normal. Well, I'm not, but those that are, they are mistaking abnormal psychology for normal. This is out of the All of Us guide, gender. Where possible, avoid using gendered terms. For example, use words like workforce instead of manpower and police officer instead of policeman. Phrases like ladies and gentlemen or boys and girls should be avoided. When speaking about individuals, be sure you know and use their preferred pronoun. He, she, he, they. Yes, some people prefer to be called they. And it's already happening in Canada that people are being sued for not using the correct they, their pronoun. If unknown, ask the person or use their name instead. Pronouns. It's okay to ask people about their preferred use of pronouns. Where possible, ask privately. Some people use gender-neutral pronouns such as they or ze, while others use no pronoun or may wish to be addressed by their name only. It is important not to make assumptions about people's gender identity and to be respectful when using pronouns. When you start to dig and get down to it, actually, one of the goals is to remove gender from the dictionary altogether. So there is a push to remove Father's Day and Mother's Day in some countries. That actually is a real push that is happening. You may or may not be aware that the Father's Day ad that wasn't aired this Father's Day from Free TV was because that ad was deemed political. When did mum and dad and a child become political? We have to ask that question. When did that become political? They're referring you in the All of Us guide, Safe Schools program, to the -18 website. Okay, and of course, -18 has lots of articles that normalise early sexual behaviours. Now, on the -18 website, they have an article, What is Conversion Therapy? And you may or may not have heard of it, but there were people in the US that would go and they would say, I'm experiencing unwanted same-sex attraction feelings. I want to get rid of them. So they were going saying, I choose that I don't want this. And they would go through therapy. And quite often they would find out that there was some abuse or family dynamics that had led to those feelings. And when they worked through those issues, they actually were quite happy in heterosexual relationships after that. On their website, they say conversion therapy is an umbrella term that's used to describe processes designed to change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. Well, I would argue that's exactly what Safe Schools is trying to do. They're trying to use feelings to change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. And so they're actually taking children who are very susceptible. We know your consequences and reasoning part of the brain is not fully developed until 24, sometimes later. And your feelings part is the primary area where you make decisions as a teenager. And they are taking very confusing information and they are using that to convert heterosexual teenagers and turn them into homosexuals, bisexuals, transgenders. What they say around someone who says, I have same-sex unwanted attraction, could you help me, is it's pretty clear that this is ridiculous because there's absolutely nothing wrong with being same-gendered, attracted or gender diverse in the first place. This is here in Australia, New South Wales. Child 4 identifies as transgender as data reveals growing referrals for gender dysphoria. And this 4-year-old is actually being referred to have transgender surgeries before kindergarten so that it won't impact their life. According to News Corp, data from the Westmead Children's Hospital stated that referrals for gender dysphoria have tripled. Hardly surprising when they're being indoctrinated with your feelings are more important than your biology. Of course kids are confused. That's very confusing information. The report said another major hospital in Melbourne had 250 children who were being assisted by the gender dysphoria unit. A decade ago, it had just one. Now, Safe Schools has been in the Victorian schools for quite some time, and this is the result of it. Now we have this huge increase of children who are confused about their sexuality. The topic has divided opinions among child psychology and gender dysphoria experts. And part of the reason it's so divided is a lot of people who actually don't agree with it won't speak out because of fear of persecution, because there is so much bias to go the politically correct LGBTQI route. Some have argued it is appropriate for young kids to begin gender transitions, while others insisted 4 years old was simply too young. In Britain, children as young as 4 are asked to choose what gender they are before they start school, with the option of being something other than male or female. So the parents received a letter asking them whether the child preferred male or female. And it said, please support your child to choose the gender they most identify with. One furious mother hit back at the council and said, treating children as though they are adults is a dangerous approach from a safeguarding view. And the letter from the council that they received said, we recognise that not all children and young people identify with the gender they were assigned at birth, or may identify as a gender other than male or female. However, the current systems set nationally only record gender as male or female. Please support your child to choose the gender they most identify with. Or if they have another gender identity, please leave this blank and discuss with your child's school. Parents have criticised the move, claiming children should be allowed to enjoy their innocence. I agree with that. Children should be allowed to enjoy their innocence. And we know that even in early childcare, as young as 2-year-old, they have programs that have been slipped in that are starting to confuse children. They also described it as a dangerous approach since 4-year-olds do not yet have an adult view of the world or fully understand gender roles. The American College of Pediatricians has an excellent position statement about the harm and dangers of subjecting children to transgender surgery. They talk about the high rate, extremely high rate, up to 90% of children who are confused as children accepting their birth identity once they become adults. So why would you want to get a child to have sex change surgery that comes with all of the problems, lifelong hormone treatments, if they would most probably accept their birth gender by the time they end adolescence? Now, this comes from an article in the US, and the school reading list included a lesbian sex gay orgy within it. And the New Jersey School District, they apologised to parents and admitted some of the language is inappropriate. But the thing I really want to point out is the superintendent's response. He said, the students have seen more graphic things on television or in the movies. Well, do we want to justify giving graphic sexual content to kids based on they might have seen more graphic things on television or in the movies? And to me, that just shows how far the education system has gone when the superintendent of the school district will justify having graphic sexual content on the basis that, well, they've probably seen more graphic things on television or in the movies.